If you're like me, you enjoy a crisp, short throw when rowing through your gears in a manual transmission. This 96 Mustang features a shifter with neither of those qualities. Its shifter is quite frankly annoying in its current state, and I'm looking to fix that, especially since I plan on drifting this thing. Today, I have ordered a bunch of parts to hopefully alleviate this. If you're new to the series, welcome. I'm Tyler. This is the DISGUSTANG, and I want to drift it. I have zero clue what I'm doing, but I'm going to follow what is on the internet to see if it can teach me the ropes and hopefully turn this into something that it isn't right now. I've already installed a racing seat, failed at painting it, and put on a little steering wheel cover. Currently, I've been watching a lot of the Chris Fix videos that have gone over some of these modifications. In fact, I bought the exact same shifter that he did because it got great reviews, and some of the other ones didn't. First, let's take a drive with it stock. I tried to shift as quick as I could to overcome that distance, and it seemed to go okay. So the stock shifter is kind of clunky. It has reasonable throws, but I'm more just looking for a better feel. And that's what my new shifter promises. So let's see how hard it is for my pea-brain to install. Real quick, if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing and hitting the bell. That way you get quality content and I get closer to making this a full-time job. Also, these Mustang videos cost a bunch to make and don't grab as much attention as my regular car reviews. So your views, likes, and shares have meant a lot. Thank you. Okay, now that I'm overconfident after watching that Chris Fix video, I'm gonna take off the shifter, which is going to start with taking off the shift knob. So I have an aftermarket one that needs a Allen wrench, which usually you could just twist it off. Yeah. All right. Oh, okay, so you just twist that off too, I guess. Next thing you want to do, pull off this plastic stuff, which in my case is very easy because the clips are all broken. This is just shredded. The next thing that you want to do is unplug this little guy right here. The next step, remove the lower shift boot with a 10mm socket. Okay. That's righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Hey! That is coming off easy. They did replace the transmission in this car. So, I don't know how old the transmission is. The shifter ain't great. But, the good news is, these bolts are coming off just fine. Okay, so we've run into our first problem. Hey, these are disconcertingly loose. Can I just hand spin this bitch? Nah. These are tiny. Okay. I want to just start putting money into the things that are like, you know, performance related and not just trying to fix it. Although I guess I really haven't put much into fixing this thing. Probably because I don't care that much. Okay. Maybe I just take off these first. Everything is loose. This is weird. If you guys watched the first video, like literally I could not get past that first bolt without hitting it with a hammer. And I just snapped it. All right, shifter is off. I feel like this video, people aren't gonna like as much because this is going smooth. Oh. Oh shit, that is literally off. Look, whoever put this transmission in did a god-awful job.
2 seconds later.
That's cutting pretty easy. So you'd think a transmission shop probably could have just done that. All right, back in action. So this is the 13 millimeter that Chris Fix was talking about. This one, it was not tight because I think the transmission shop or whoever did it just gave up. There are 4 bolts here, and all of them came off easy-ish. No breaker bar needed. Also, if you were wondering why I didn't cut it myself, it's because he didn't want me to. And quite honestly, I don't blame him. You should not have to do that for this kind of job. As I was explaining in my racing seat video, it seems like every single car that I get, and this is gonna happen to a lot of other people, you're gonna see these YouTubers where they just blow through this shit, and you're gonna get really confident, and then you're gonna run into 1,000 problems that maybe they just didn't have. Always make sure that you got a plan B. A power or Sawzall or whatever that's called is definitely something that I would invest in. Apes can follow basic instructions. Experts solve the problems that will inevitably arise when working on cars. Power saws are good problem-solving tools, but sometimes pry bars are too, which is what we needed in order to crack the top of the damn transmission. We are by no means experts. However,
apes alone, weak.
I feel like I'm gonna hurt myself.
Apes together, strong.
See,
It's moving.
It's moving, but it's...
It looks like some... Hey! Oh, okay, this gasket is falling apart. We didn't break anything, but...
Which gasket?
After throwing in a disposable protective towel, you are going to want to use a plastic blade and some Scotch-Brite or abrasive sponge to clean off the mating surface for your new gasket. This took me longer than I wanted. Oh yeah, make sure you don't use a metal blade as that could gouge the surface. After scraping, take out the towel and try to get out any gasket material that might have fallen into the abyss. It doesn't have to be perfect, but put in some effort. Next, it would be wise to throw in a new bushing that houses the shifter's bottom. Alright, so this is literally you just... That's the easiest thing I've ever done on this car. Now to apply a new gasket. You can use an RTV gasket maker kind of thing, but I f things up. Line up the gasket. Now I did this out of order. I should have put the bolts in the shifter first and then put the gasket around the bolts. So learn from my mistakes. Once you get all the bolt holes lined up, take them out one by one and put a little bit of thread locker on them to make sure that they don't come off due to vibrations. Is that enough?
Yeah, you don't need a lot.
Okay, so thread locker is applied. Got this tool that allows you to get a little bit of torque and twist it. So we're gonna hand tighten these in a star pattern. Then take your ratchet and tighten these to 15 pound-feet, which is snug, but don't crank them too hard. We want to adjust these little bump stops, so that way we don't break our transmission whenever we're slamming through gears. You're going to want to put the car in 3rd and 4th gear to adjust the stop nuts on each side. Since I overthink everything, this took me forever. Really, just make sure the car is fully in gear, adjust the nut to touch the lever, then ease off a 1/4 to 1/2 turn. I whipped out a feeler gauge and second guessed myself a ton. It's really not that deep. Once done, make sure it goes completely into gear. Next, you're going to want to throw on the included washer with this kit, which is there to make sure the boot doesn't get pinched. Since I enjoy wasting time, I put back on the screws to the boot, and then we forgot to put in the brackets that actually hold the lower boot screws. So we took it apart. Again, you shouldn't have to remove the old brackets and replace them unless you bought a new lower boot like me. With the new ones clipped in place and the boot back on, I pressed forward. Voila. You. Now it's just a matter of putting on the 4 10mm bolts, which I got new ones, but you can reuse your old ones. These do not need to be tightened to a crazy amount either, just make sure they're snug. We're almost done. Just need to get the arm attached. Where did I put the arm? Oh. Okay. So there's an included little gasket thing here, and we're gonna plop that on. This is just to reduce vibrations, and I'm gonna place my shifter on the right side because we're gonna have the Hydro e-brake in here at some point. I'd recommend sliding the bushing or gasket closer to the shifter. It makes this a little easier. I also constantly went back and forth between the two because I did not want there to be an angle on the handle where I might start cross-threading screws. Oh, that's so much better. With the shifter in place, then tighten the nuts around the bolts. Again, you don't need to crank these on. It had been a few hours at this point. The end was near. Next, you want to reconnect the outlet, plop the upper boot on, and clip it in place. But it feels so much better.
Does it?
Yes, so definitely worth it. Lastly, I recommend getting a new shift knob when installing a new short throw shifter to get the full effect. I didn't because I was cheap, and I just ended up buying a American Muscle kind of shift knob anyway. Now you have yourself a race car shifter. Well, kind of. While shorter, the throws still have some length because I used the top bolt holes for the handle. You can move it lower. I did this because I want the shifter closer to my hands. After taking this out to drift for the first time and driving it for a while, I definitely appreciate the way that this feels. It's still notchy and satisfying, however, it doesn't have this clunky feel. Still, I realized this modification was far from necessary in terms of a performance increase. Since I don't have super aggressive gearing, I rarely shifted when I was actually in the thick of it. It improved the feel for sure, and I don't regret doing this, but if your car shifts okay stock and you want to drift, not autocross, you should definitely get a short throw shifter if you want to autocross. You can postpone a shifter. Focus on a racing seat, welding your diff if it is open, or putting on a more aggressive suspension setup. I gained a ton of insight at my first event, so I would probably recommend the same. Going to your first event as close to stock as possible will allow you to realize what parts of your car really need work. I definitely changed my mind on a lot of things after going drifting, so stay tuned for my next videos. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next disgusting episode where I install everything needed to pass tech inspection. It was great. That's a little dangerous.